Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and today I'm going to be doing my August wrap up. So as you can see, I am back in my apartment at school. I came back like 5 days ago and I've already had a few days of classes, kind of settling into my senior year of college, which is kind of insane, but you know, that's life. And yeah, the transition was much smoother than I anticipated. I've talked previously about my anxiety surrounding transitions and change, so coming back to school was something I was really nervous about because, you know, just that big transition to senior year especially. It's going pretty well so far and I'm hoping to start some therapy soon to prepare myself for the rest of the year and all the changes that brings. So that's kind of like a little life update. I'm really enjoying my classes, and yeah, today I thought it would be a good day to film my August wrap up. This is kind of like the last summary thing I'm doing before I move over to all the fun things I have planned for fall. I have so many exciting ideas, and this is also my first video back from my mini hiatus that I took because of my anxiety. So really excited to be back and filming again in front of a camera, and I'm just really excited for everything that fall is gonna bring. So as you may or may not have noticed from the title of this video, I am not doing a September TBR in this video. I'm gonna do a full fall TBR video later in the month, which will encompass all the books I would like to read from September to November. So be on the lookout for that. And it's also the reason this video might be a little shorter because I don't have that extra segment of me talking about the books I wanna read throughout the month. I'm gonna have a whole video dedicated to that and I'm really excited about it. That's it with the intro stuff. Let's get on to the books that I read in August. So I read 5 books this month, which I'm really happy about because I definitely thought it would be a lot less, and I really liked the books I read. I had a good bunch of books this month and I would much rather read books that made me happy rather than read a bunch of books that I didn't like as much, so I'm really happy with the ones I've picked up. So let's get into it. The first book that I read in August was A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Amanda Collins, and I gave that book 3 stars. A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem is a fun historical romance with a murder mystery twist. In it, we follow Lady Catherine Bascombe, who is a journalist and she writes for women, and she owns this newspaper, which is very uncommon for women at the time, but she, I think, essentially inherited it from her late husband. So she is a widow. She's kind of enjoying the freedoms that being an independent woman grant her until one of her stories accidentally causes some mischief in a big murder investigation, which is being led by Detective Andrew Eversham. So they get off on the wrong foot. But when these murders start happening more frequently and bloodier than before, they are forced to team up to kind of solve this case of serial murders throughout London. I really loved Lady Catherine Bascombe and Detective Andrew Eversham. I really enjoyed watching their relationship develop from kind of enemies to kind of friends to something more. The mystery was well thought out and kept me engaged throughout the entire book. I think Amanda Collins did a really great job making it just the right amount of unpredictable, so it didn't feel like the answer to the mystery came out of nowhere. Like I could definitely track the logic, because I feel like sometimes murder mysteries are so concerned with making sure the audience can't guess it, so they like pull the answers out of nowhere. But I really like how Amanda Collins really planted the evidence from the beginning and I still didn't guess it. So that's just for me the mark of a really great mystery book, and especially with that murder twist. It was a little bloody sometimes, a little gross, but definitely an enjoyable read. I did think the beginning of the book was a little slow. I found myself kind of drifting through the pages, not paying much attention. It was a lot of setup at the beginning, but towards the middle it really picks up and I couldn't put it down from there out. So in the end I gave it 3.5 stars, really liked it, and if you like murder, mystery, and romance, this is definitely a book to check out. The next book that I read in August was The Gilded Ones by Nemina Forna. This is a book I've been wanting to read for a really long time, and I'm really happy that I got the chance to pick it up. In it, we follow Dika, who had already been feeling very isolated from the rest of her village based on her skin color, but at their annual Ritual for Purity event, where the religious figures in the village test all the women's blood to see if it is red, the color of purity, or gold, the color of impurity, Dika's blood ends up being gold. So she knows that she is about to be sentenced to a fate worse than death until a mysterious woman shows up and tells Dika that she has a choice. She can either face this worse than death punishment for being impure, or she can come with this lady and be a part of an army full of women like her and work for 10 years, I believe, to become pure again. So obviously Dika decides to join this army, but while she is in training and discovering these powers that come with being impure, she finds out something that the monarchy in this world had not been telling them, and how they may not be the impure after all. So this is a really dark fantasy read. So I would like you to be warned of that before going into the book. I would definitely check for trigger warnings. There are some pretty graphic scenes, and they talk about some really graphic things throughout the book, really violent. So if you think that might trigger you, definitely don't pick this up. But I thought that the author did a really good job shocking her audience, because that really made you listen and pay attention to the book. I really loved the book's themes of women empowerment and found family and standing up for what you believe in. This book is all about oppression and what happens when the oppressed finally rise up to take back some of the power that's been stolen from them. I thought it was kind of relevant to society today, despite being a very fantastical read. As I said, this book focuses heavily on violence, trauma, and oppression, and while those are really strong choices, I did think they worked out pretty well. My only criticism about the book was the ending. I felt the ending was very rushed, didn't make a lot of sense. I would have loved a little bit more time to absorb what was happening. It felt very quick, and the book didn't really have a concrete ending, but I felt like I could not read the second book and be fine. So I'm not quite sure if I want to pick up the second book, because I feel like I learned everything I needed to in this first book, and it ended at a place where I was fine with how the characters were. So I'm not quite sure if I'm gonna pick up the second book yet. Yeah, you have this really great book with all these rich characters and dark scenes, and then the ending, everything just kind of broke apart for me. So that's what really made it go down in my book. It's why I gave it 3 stars. So I'm not quite sure if I will pick up the second book in the series yet. If you have read that book, let me know what you thought and if I should pick it up myself. But right now I'm kind of leaning towards no. The next book I read in August was actually an ARC, and I would like to thank Penguin Teen so much for sending me an advanced copy of this book. I read the first book last year and I absolutely adored it, so to be able to get an advanced copy of this book just really meant a lot to me, and that is Devil in the Device by Laura Beth Johnson. This is the second book in the Goddess in the Machine series. It is a duology, so this is the final book in the series, and it is such a great sci-fi that I highly recommend. Since this is the second book in the series, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the first book, and I'm going to really try hard not to spoil this one in case you want to pick it up. So Goddess in the Machine follows Andra, who is a teen girl who, along with her family, has been put into cryosleep for 100 years as they travel across the stars to colonize a new planet for humankind. Only instead of 100 years, Andra wakes up in 1,000 years, learning all of her friends and family are gone, and she is being referred to by the locals of this new planet as a goddess. As Andra is trying to cope with the death of all her friends and family, she is also having to navigate this new world she has woken up with, which seems to kind of be the descendants of humankind. So she has to kind of navigate the court and the monarchy of this civilization and all these different dangers that are lurking around the corner and what it means to be a goddess in this society. If you like sci-fi, you will probably enjoy this book. If you liked Aurora Rising by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, or Across the Universe by Beth Revis, I think you will like this series, especially if you want to move away from J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman's writing, because we have recently found out these authors are extremely problematic. dramatic. So this series is a really good one to feed your sci-fi curiosity. One thing that makes this book series so special and so intriguing is how Laura Beth Johnson writes the future of humanity. The world building is honestly amazing, and you can tell that she put a lot of time and effort and thought into thinking about how the human race will evolve, how the language will change, how the structures as we see them today will change. And that kind of reimagining of humankind and that kind of thought of what it means to be human was just so evident and prolific in this book. It was just so cool to read about. Going back to Devil in the Device, the world building once again was just so great. You just got such an expansion of this world, and the ending was just so jarring and sad, but also kind of leaves you with an air of hope. So I kind of like how you don't have all the answers at the end of this book, and that's okay because that's life. So props to Laura Beth Johnson for writing a wonderful sci-fi series. I absolutely adored it, and I'm so happy and thankful to Penguin Teen for sending me an arc. The next book is one I am super excited to talk about, and that is Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. The Heartstopper series is a graphic novel that follows the friendship and subsequent relationship between Nick and Charlie, who are both students at this London prep school. It is all about being a teenager, coming to terms with your sexual identity, and falling in love for the first time. And this is the third installment. I adore Nick and Charlie. I have loved getting to know them over the past two graphic novels, and you really get a lot more of their relationship in this book. You really get that kind of feeling of falling in love for the first time and sneaking kisses behind a vending machine, and just, it was so wholesome and wonderful. In this book, they actually travel with their schoolmates to Paris for a school trip. So kind of seeing them in this different setting was so wonderful. There are also some trigger warnings for this book for talk of self-harm and an eating disorder. So if those are things that might trigger you, definitely be aware of them before going into this book. But I think Alice Oseman talked about them and brought them up in a really organic and sensitive way. So I thought that was really well done. And I absolutely loved this book. I love Nick and Charlie, and I also love how in this book you get more of the side character story. I mean, it's so obvious that Alice Oseman puts so much love and effort into every single aspect of her books, because you can see how much attention she pays all of these different characters who aren't our main two. So yeah, I just adore this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was so good, and I cannot wait to read the next installment. The final book that I read in August was one I absolutely loved. I gave it 5 stars, and that would be 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I actually buddy read this with a good friend of mine on Instagram, Eva, or evenfall.court. I will link her down below. And we read this wonderful retelling by Elizabeth Lim. So I already knew I loved Elizabeth Lim's writing from the Blood of Stars duology, but wow, you can really tell how much her writing has grown from those books to this one. 6 Crimson Cranes is a retelling of the 6 Swans fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm, and in it we follow Shiori, who is the princess of Kyoto, who has a secret that she has magic flowing through her veins, but in Kyoto, magic is forbidden. She's usually very good at hiding it, but one day it attracts the attention of her stepmother, Raikama. Raikama also has her own dark magic, so to protect her secret, she turns Shiori's 6 brothers into 6 cranes. And she tells Shiori that if she ever tells anyone who she is, if she ever utters a word again, it will kill one of her brothers for every word she speaks. Banished and alone, Shiori works to find her brothers and figure out a way to lift this curse on them, while also discovering a secret plot to overthrow her father and the kingdom in the process. This was such a great imaginative fairy tale. I loved Shiori. I loved her character growth from beginning to end. I thought she was just such a fun character, and I loved every single aspect of this book. I loved her magic and how it made a paper crane named Kiki come to life. I loved seeing the familial bonds between her and her brothers throughout this book, because I think Elizabeth Lim writes familial bonds really well. And I just loved every part of it, the magic system, the world we were in, and it actually is the same world as the Spin the Dawn books, but it's a different kingdom, so that was super cool. There were a lot of little hints and little Easter eggs from the Spin the Dawn series that I really liked. This book was just so fascinating and I loved every single second of it. It had so many great twists and turns. I just adored it and I cannot wait for the second book to come out, hopefully soon. And it was just such fun to buddy read this with a friend. Every single Sunday we would just talk and talk about how much we loved the progression of the story, and if you have not picked it up yet, I highly recommend. And those were the books that I read in August. As I said earlier in the video, I will not be talking about my September TBR. That is coming very soon. However, I am so excited to talk about all the books that I want to read in the fall because there are quite a few, including all the anticipated releases I have. So yeah, let me know down below what were your favorite reads of August, and if you've made it this far, also drop a little autumn leaf in the comments so I know you are as excited for fall as I am. If you guys liked this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Hit the notification bell to get updates on when I post. I post every single week, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!